that's not enough, I got the pink slip daddy. Okay, what's the pink slip? The title. Okay, let's say the Lord tarries, and 1,000 years from now, they get a CD or a little whatever play the music on. Let's say a CD of that song or a little cassette, and they go to a museum and they find something to play, and they have to say, well, they used electricity then, and some of you guys could figure out how to make electricity. And so they're going to play that and say, and scholars are going to sit in a room like you guys, a whole room of scholars, and you're going to tell me what that song says. And we're going to all discuss it. You're going to pontificate upon what that song is saying. Because you don't have perspective of what it's saying, because that was a long time ago. Very similar to what the Bible is being written a long time ago. So you're going to look at that and say, well, it's ported and relieved and it's stroked and bored. Does anybody know what that is? It's modifications to the engine. It's going to talk about the lake pipes roar. Okay, what is lake pipes? It's a manufacturer, lake pipes. You see, when Brian Wilson wrote that in the 1960s, he knew exactly what those words meant, and car wonks knew what it meant. Okay? And then he said, "I walketh under bird like it's standing still." What people are going to say 1,000 years later is, well, they're walking birds. And it does 140 on the top end floor. Well, a little Deuce Coupe couldn't do 140 if it was being pulled by a DC-10. A little Deuce Coupe, by the way, is a 32 Ford. It's the 2 at the end of a 3. During World War II, when guys came back, we only made 60 cars during World War II. Everything was tanks and guns and everything else. So what they did is they went to junkyards and they got these old cars. And the 32 Ford was like in American Graffiti, the yellow car there. That's a Deuce Coupe. It's not a 2-seater. It's the 2 at the end of a 3. So it's a 1932. So they call it a Deuce Coupe. Okay, so we know what that means because we know contemporarily what that means in a contemporaneous format. But now we're looking at the Bible and we're talking about thousands and thousands of years from when it was written. While we're reading it, so we have modern translators that came up and said, we got to translate the Bible. So this version of the New King James, there's publishers. I don't know who publishes in the front of it, but there's publishers that write the Bible. What the publishers have to do, I don't know who writes it. Who's that? Like Tommy Nelson or who does it? Zondervan? Anyway, what is it? Tommy Nelson. Okay, I wrote a couple books. Okay, so then we have another publisher. If you want to print a book, Bible's the biggest selling book in the world, you cannot write what someone else has written. There's copyright laws. Okay? So you've got to get a bunch of people say, well, we can't copy what they said, but we've got to get the best view of what we say. And that's where the train goes off the rails. Taken in the original Greek and Hebrew, the Bible has never, ever, 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 ever been proven to be wrong. For in intellectual integrity, I'd have to tell you if there was a problem in the Bible. Yes, there's problems, but it's our problems is our interpretation of that. Remember I said evidence is a proof. It's a proper interpretation of evidence is proof. Okay? So we have journeying from the east, and we have going eastward. 2 opposite directions. What is the right word? Well, the Greek-speaking Hebrews in the Septuagint that Jesus quoted use the preposition apo, which only means from, not towards, or in. It's a wrong rendering of the preposition. This is the correct one. We have to go, that's what you have to do, is you have to go find the original source. That's when we had the guy in the Reformation, for instance. We have the Reformation that comes about in the 1500s. Martin Luther, Tyndale, and those guys before him was Wycliffe. They used a term called ad fontes, which was Latin, which means go to the source. Like you go to a spring of water that comes out of the ground. It's the purest where it comes out of the ground. And then in distance and time, it gets polluted. It gets muddy, animals defecate in it, birds poop in it, leaves get in it, mud gets mixed in with it. By the time it gets down to the Colorado River going out to the ocean, it's a muddy, muddy brown red. Okay? But the original purity of that water was up in the mountains, and it came down in time and distance, it gets polluted. That's what's happened a lot of times with people, with the Bible. And what people then do, modern day critics start complaining, and secular people that don't want the Bible to be right because it goes against what they believe. They want to have their own life. They want to have sin. They want to do things. They don't want to be living under condemnation. So they change it to fit their own lifestyle. That's what a lot of the cults do. The Mormons, Jehovah's Witnesses, they change the Word of God to fit what they want for their organization. Okay? So what we need to do is we need to be good students of the Bible and find out what it means. So we're talking about descendants of Noah coming from the east. Where is the east from Baghdad? Iran. You have the Zagros Mountains and the Elburz Mountains. Much higher than Mount Ararat in Turkey. It goes to 18,000 feet in Iran. So I went to Turkey. I spent years, you're going to see in a moment, you're going to see climbing around that mountain and looking with Jim Irwin. You're going to see me up on the ice and the snow in a few seconds. And then you're going to see all of a sudden, we're going to shift to Iran. They call it Iran. Okay? I've been there 5 times. I was arrested twice in Iran. Arrested once in Turkey. So the Noah's Ark has resulted in my 3 arrests, of my 5 arrests. And remind me at the end of this talk, somebody asked me, or Dennis asked me how I got out of the jail in Saudi Arabia. I forgot to mention that last night because I'm just so excited to talk to you guys. I get really into this. Okay? So we're going to go to Turkey and we're going to look, and then we're going to go to Iran because that is east from the east. That's the high mountains from the east. Now also we have Julius Africanus that says it's in the area of the Minyai tribes, which is in Iran. We have Flavius Josephus, who says it's in the area of the Adiabene, that's in Iran. All the ancient historians talk about it being in Iran. And after when I ordered Ahmadinejad from Iran, the president actually put out a big thing saying Bob Cornuke found it, God has chosen Iran, and they quoted, I got a lot of trouble for that because the Ayatollahs are all saying that I was saying it's in Iran. And that they are the blessed people. I just know it's just there. I'm not saying they're the blessed people. By the way, the people in Iran, all the stuff in the news today, when I'm in the countryside of Iran, I spend a lot of time there. Beautiful people in the countryside. Most of them have relatives in Los Angeles. There's over 1 million people in LA alone that have, or from Persia, Iran. The people love Americans. Invite you in the home. But in Tehran, where you have the mullahs, the religious leaders, they're very anti-American. So it's really weird, but a lot of the people in the countryside that are revolting right now are wanting their freedom. But the religious persecution, if they go against the mullahs, they get killed or assassinated. Thousands and thousands getting killed. I was arrested over there in Nur, and I was arrested over there in Adiabene, and they threw me in jail, and I don't think I have, maybe I have on the video where I'm thrown in jail. I'll show you that. One scene you're going to see in there, I don't have time to set it up, but you'll see it is, when I was in Tehran, across from the American embassy where all those guys were captured, we had to have a secret policeman with us. We couldn't go around the countryside without a secret police being with us. They were suspicious of us. We got permission through the Pakistani embassy, through the Swedish embassy. It was kind of a weird thing, but I got in there 5 times when no one else could, but I did it. I went to the Swedish, and I went to the Swiss, and I went to the Pakistan, and they gave me permission, but they said, you have to go be with a guide. Okay, so we had this security guy with us, and he is got handcuffs, and he's not dressed in a suit and tie, he just got a shirt, but he has handcuffs, and I said to him, hey, do you ever use those? He goes, no. I hardly ever use these. I just have them just in case kind of thing. I said, well, do you know how to operate them? He goes, a little bit. You take them and you clamp them. He shows them. I said, no, you take them, the ratchet down, you pop them on the wrist, and they spin around. The ratchet spins around and locks it really quick. So within a millisecond, I went clink, clink, and I had him handcuffed. And he got this petrified look on his face, and he goes, uh-oh. He goes, I don't have a key. Because the only person that has a key is the chief of police in Tehran. Thank God. So you're going to see, watch my face in the background when the chief of police pulls up and the whole countryside and then the news are there because I handcuffed a secret police. My wife says she knows I'm going to heaven because I've never reached the age of accountability. So let's start the Noah's Ark journey, okay? We're going to go, it's a little bright in here, but maybe you can see it, okay? Can you guys see it okay? Yeah. Okay, maybe you get more of the shape. Okay, there. Now this is a young Bob. This is me 45 years ago, 40 years ago, and I'm training in the mountains of, sorry about that, I'm going to speak. And I'm training with Bob Stupelik, my good friend, and we're now rappelling in Crested Butte, training to go to look for Noah's Ark. There's his daughter training, and Stacy got into some bad rock, and she fell. That's why you have pecans in the rock. Okay, she's okay. Her pants had to be changed that day, but she's okay. Now here we are. When you go to Mount Ararat in Turkey, this is Mount Ararat in Turkey, you have to have, there's no trails up there. It's just a lot of rock, and the horses don't want to go, so you got to kind of, and by the time we get to 12,000 feet, you have to leave the horses because they were a bloody mess. All their ankles were all just cut up from the jagged rocks. Now when you get up higher, each rock will roll out from underneath you. In fact, Jim Irwin, on a previous expedition before me, the astronaut that walked on the moon, he fell. And he went cartwheeling down. He was by himself. You don't climb alone on a mountain. He wanted to go by himself. He spent the entire night in the mountain, almost froze to death.
Everything's still there now, but when Jim fell, that's right where he fell, right in that first bowl. He was partway down that first bowl, he slid, he ended up in rocks. Similar with the rocks right over there in that moraine, all that moraine right there. Ripped his clothes, his hands, 4 big gashes in his head, knocked out 4 teeth. When you get to him 8 o'clock the next morning. He went through the night. He went in and out of consciousness, woke up, got in a sleeping bag, which is what got him through the night.
So when you get higher up, that Jim had a bad fall. So I'm going on this next trip. I'm with Bob Stupelik, who's the world-class. He just died. Bob is a good friend of mine. He just died. Really fit guy. All of a sudden, he just passed away. We're up on the mountain here. Now we're rolling up about maybe 12,000 feet here. 14. We're at 14.
Now looking into the Horror Gorge in the Santa Deer, and this is the most popular area for ark sightings. There's been many throughout the years. Directly with a man who says that he saw the ark, saw timbers from the ark in the area. Could be just another one of many eyewitnesses that are very tantalizing to ark searchers, but usually end up to be very disappointing. So we're going to research this area, check it out, and see if Noah's Ark is here. There have been numerous people that have gone up there and not come back down. There have been people that have go up and set up a tent, and if they're not anchored down, I mean, people that blow them right off the top of the mountain, staying in tents. So it has been fatal for a number of people.
Now I'm 16,000 feet here, and this is maybe 17, close to 17. And now get this, I'm on a sheer ice sheet, drops off a mile. And I don't know what this animal is.
I have no idea what kind of animal this is. We're pretty nice. About 60 feet down there is a sheer drop off.
Just froze to death. Got to the edge, couldn't go any further. So that was an ibex we found out later. Those 2 girls were right there. Right, the arrow is where I was just standing. That red arrow. They were a tent right there, and they were blown off in their tent. They put ice screws in like a frisbee. Went out. They didn't get the bodies for 2 years. They went down 4,000 feet before they hit rocks, just like in a frisbee. Flew. It's a dangerous mountain, guys. Don't go over there, all right? Now I'm going to Iran. It gives you a little. That's in the news right now. So we have. We're flying over there now. When you get to Iran, the women are all covered up completely. And this is on the site of the hotel. You don't get good room service when it's down with the USA. So we went up to the mountains to stay at a monastery because of all the people we were afraid of. So we stayed in this little hospital, this old abandoned mosque up there. Maybe a Crusader castle, we don't know. But it was 50 cents a night. Most overpriced hotel I've ever been in. So you get it. When you climb a mountain, Bob and I were the only good mountain climbers, professional. So we just said, we're going to leave the rest of the team down, and we head up at 3:30, 4 in the morning. You drink about 3 big bottles of water because it's hard to carry water, so you saturate yourself. So you're just got a lot of water, then you hike up. But this day, it's cloudy in the morning. When it's cloudy in the morning, it's going to be a sucky day because it's just really, it's usually going to be like a sunny, nice, warm day. This is very cold. It was so cold, I tell you guys, this is the coldest. The lake didn't freeze because it's volcanic and it had some thermal stuff coming in. This is August. The batteries froze, the camera shutter froze. We had to put the batteries under our armpits and walk around for an hour to get them warm up to even film this. Hope you guys appreciate what I did to get this morning. The icicles are coming out sideways. Okay. This is me, trying to get warm, filming up there. It was just a horrible day. Probably 40 below, 50 below maybe. The wind chilled about, the wind going crazy. So just brutal. Maybe it's 30 below, I think. Maybe 30, 40, not 50. It was cold.
Batteries froze. My camera shutter froze open. It was a total whiteout, clouds. Unbelievably grueling 8 hours. Never want to do that again.
Like a dog returns to his vomit, I kept climbing mountains. So now we're in. Okay, can we stop it right here? Okay, thanks. You're doing a great job, Dave. There was a guy in World War II named Ed Davis, who was a sergeant that worked for the Army, building roads from the Persian Gulf into the Caspian Sea area, bringing supply lines in the World War II effort. So he had to build roads going through Iran. He was over there as a sergeant. He's from New Mexico, Farmington. And with Ed Shockey there, he lived there. And Ed, I went to see him a long time ago. I forget how old I was, pretty young. And I met with him, and he said he saw Noah's Ark. And he said he was taken up by the lures, not the Kurds, but the lures, and taken outside of Hamadan. He went up by a truck outside of Hamadan, and he said he saw this big object that was wood beams. And everybody, it became you hear about Ed Davis finding the Ark in World War II, so he said he found this big thing, had drawings of it, took a lie detector test. I gave him a lie detector test. I had a friend of mine, a polygrapher, and the guy said, he's telling the truth. Which doesn't mean he's telling the truth, he believes he's telling the truth, okay? So he says he saw Noah's Ark. It was enough for me to say, I got to figure out what this guy. So now at the point, I'm not looking for Noah's Ark, because I'm looking for what Ed Davis said he saw. He gave a drawing, took the drawing to Ed Holroyd at Denver University, and he was a satellite expert. He said, Bob, I know where the valley is from the drawing. So we went over, and it was right up by the Caspian Sea outside of Hamadan. So this is the mountain that we climbed to see the Ed Davis object. Okay, go ahead and press, please. And here's the guy handcuffed. Watch my face. Watch the guy's face. He's getting his hands undone. As Barry Randy's the president of Davis Rental Car. Everybody's laughing. I'm kind of scared. Look at me being behind there. I'm going, holy crap. So we get him out of the handcuffs, and all of a sudden, look who drives up, but the chief of police of Tehran. He was not happy with me. Anyway, so we were released, and I wasn't arrested, I was detained. So we went up the mountain. A lot of the guys were older, they couldn't climb. Four of these guys were over 60 at the time. It was hard getting them up the mountains with those little walkers with the tennis balls on them, so we gave them horses. And they went up there. That guy is Rasul. He climbed Everest twice without oxygen. He's a world famous climber in Iran. And so we found this object. But look at that. This object it's black, and so we climbed up to it, and it had, man, I tell you guys, it looked so much like wood. And some of it tested out to be very positive. So, look at that thing. See the black thing on the right? It goes, it's in the mountains. It's totally different, like petrified.
Dimensions, colors, textures. We want to have these samples tested to see if it could be petrified wood. Some people say it's just rock. Others have looked at the samples and said it's wood, so we're here to find out what we're looking for.
I was on CNN, Good Morning America, Fox, and all that after this, and one of the guys on our team said, "Oh, we found Noah's Ark," and I had to go do damage control. I said, "I don't know if it is, but it's really, if you look at it, now look at the side of this thing. It looks like a Spanish galleon. It's got the beams in it, and it's got the things. It looks just like an old ship, but it's rock, you know." And so we started picking. Now, guys, could it be Noah's Ark? It could be, but it doesn't meet the threshold. Now, this is a piece of petrified wood here. You don't find petrified wood at 13,000 feet. It's usually low. Look at these pieces. I mean, everybody's screaming, "We found Noah's Ark! We found Noah's Ark!" And I said, "Guys, calm down. Look at this wood here. That's a tree. There's no tree rings. Of course, what was it like before the flood? There was no seasons. We had seasons after the flood, so there's no tree rings, just soft wood. Look at this. And I mean, the guys were just so aggressive in saying it's Noah's Ark. I said, we just don't know. It's just interesting. So we're peeling away the rocks and finding little things that look like petrified wood.
This is where?
This is in Iran. Yeah, this is where we think it. That's where Ed Davis said he saw it during World War II when he was over there working. So, but look at the pieces. You can see they're squared. Some of them look like they're even cut off, like old curled beams. These are two attorneys here that were with me, good friends of mine, Doug Shirley and Steve Crampton. So the attorneys came 2 by 2 on the ark, but they were the dirty animals. They were the clean ones. So we look at this. Look at that. It looks like it's cut. Anthropologically altered. That's what one guy said. Look at this here. You see the cut mark in it like it's a cut-in beam. Could it be a natural object? It could be. I mean, I don't know. I've never seen anything like it in the world, but it's pretty interesting. This is all orangey. This looks just like wood when you see it. The colors, the cameras, we weren't having good cameras in those days. But
So the test came back wood?
we tested some wood, yeah. We took samples and it tested the wood, petrified wood, but not wood, petrified wood. Wood doesn't last. It's the minerals go into the wood and it makes it petrified.
How did you get there?
Okay, here we found some shells at 14,000 feet. We'll have Q&A in just a few seconds. Okay. We found a lot of shells here. This one shell, I was on National Geographic. They did a special on this one shell where I was on National Geographic because this shell is huge. Little clams are at that altitude, if they're in rivers, they're just like the size of a small pea. This was big like ocean clam, and it dated to be 30,000 years old with accelerator mass spectrometry. Okay, Q&A.
Go ahead and stop there. Wait a minute. Ask questions before it's over. Wait a minute. Stop. So, my question is, what research other than the Bible that led you to think that Noah's Ark was on Mount Ararat? Because the research that I've done is from my couch on the History Channel. So what convinced you that this might be where the Ark is?
Well, first of all, we have not found Noah's Ark on Mount Ararat in Turkey. And let's just say, maybe the Ark doesn't even exist. It was a long time ago. The only way they could exist if it's in the north side of the mountain above 14,000 feet, non-glacier, because glaciers move and grind things up over thousands and thousands of years. They grind things up to powder. So it would have to be embedded in the ice on the north side of the mountain. And we have found people, men, in the mountains of Switzerland and whatnot that are 5,000 years old. You can see. You ever seen those pictures of those guys that they found? It's like putting in the freezer forever. It lasts forever. So, but in the absence of that, the ark can only survive by petrification. You need water. You need silica from ash floating on the water, and you need mud to cover it really quickly. So it had to be covered quickly, and then over time, the wood absorbs the minerals from the ash and whatnot, and it becomes petrified. So when you see something that's petrified, it's not wood; it's an image of wood replaced by the minerals. So the grains and everything else will be there. You ever seen petrified forest here in Arizona? So that's what they're at. So why would I believe it's there? Because when I was looking where Noah's Ark, everybody said it was, I asked one day, I just said, guys, why are we looking on this mountain? And they said, well, this is Ararat. I said, well, how do we know it's Ararat? Well, we don't know. So I called up all the universities. We don't know. Nobody even questioned it ever. And I said, well, so I did a deep dive into the history, and I found in Iran, I went from Iran, from all the way to Susa, all the way to Ardabil, did hundreds of interviews, and everywhere I went, every library had more legends and traditions of the Ark landing in Iran than Turkey, because Iran's been closed. No one's ever gotten that information. So I went by myself. It was pretty scary, climbing mountains and everything by myself, going all over Iran, starting way in the bottom and going up. That's like going from here to Montana. That's how far I drove. Days and days and days. At night, sleeping in hotels with no screens and no windows and no curtains, and people outside grinding metal all night long, and shops and horses clopping down the street. And at one point, you got to go to yourself, where's the sanity in all this? Because not only you start questioning your sanity, everybody is criticizing you and ridiculing you on the internet. Why are you doing this? Well, because to find the information, you've got to go through that. So I went to all the universities, and I went and talked to all the villagers, and I went over there, and there's more evidence of being there. Now, Julius Africanus talked about the ark. We have the King's List that talks about a time before the flood and after the flood. We have NMMen talks about a time before the flood and after the flood. We have the Gilgamesh epic talking about a time before the flood and after the flood. There is always a demarcation point where there's a before the flood and after the flood world for the ancients. They believed it, but in time we become scientific, become intellectual, become more educated, and we start saying, oh, that couldn't have happened. Yet the world shows evidence of a hydraulic catastrophe wherever you look. Okay? So, by the way, I'll show you a mistake. How many days did it rain? It rained for how many days and how many nights? Everybody will say 40. Anybody think it's different than 40? Anybody know it's different than 40?
No.
Let me see your Bible. 100% of pastors that I talk to say it rained for 40 days and 40 nights.